Hi, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, I'm Ronaldo Guerrero. I am the chairman of the Belize Institute of Management. I want to start off by thanking you for agreeing to this interview. Could you share with our viewers who you are and what is it that you do?
Okay, good morning, Ronaldo. Thank you. My name is Mick Fleming, and Lucy, my wife, and I are the sole owners of the lodge at Chaa Creek. We've been living in Belize since 1977, and Belize has been our home ever since. We didn't really exactly know it was going to be like that, but that's how it turned out. And so we have what is perhaps known as an eco lodge and 400 acres of land up on the Macau River in the Cayo district.
Okay, thank you very much, Mick. You are aware that on April 22nd, the government of Belize signed into law the banning of styrofoam and single-use plastic. And because of that, the Belize Institute of Management decided to look for business ambassadors for sustainable development for people who did not require a law to be doing the right things in terms of the environment and the saving Belize and the earth on a whole. However, without getting into the broad, what would appear to be level of fanaticism on environment, we are looking at the corporate side of how the corporate side can protect the environment. But you were Echo before Echo even became a name. So could you tell us why and what are some of the things that you are doing so we can share with some of our viewers?
Well, I think first of all it was our circumstances when we came to Belize. We had no money, so we arrived with a suitcase each and $600 to our name. So we weren't exactly moving here as sort of big-time business people or whatever. And so when we moved up onto the Macau River, we had to deal and we lived off what the environment actually provided us. So all of our water came straight from the Macau River, which, in those days, and I think still is, relatively clean. We did not have money to go out and purchase things which were not absolutely, totally essential. And quite honestly, even as we go along now, there's always these huge, great, long priority lists of things that you would need. Nowadays, I guess our whole business was based on environmental concern. This is what we had to offer our guests, and we didn't even know originally whether that was going to work. So we lived in an environment where I suppose we were as close as one could be at one with what was going on round about us, and that has always been the essence of what Chaa Creek's. We're not trying to be eco. It's just we have always felt it was the right way to approach things, and because we didn't have any money, we made use of what God has given us, I guess, would be.
But as you have grown, you have continued with it, and I'm sure that you have introduced new things that move beyond convenience, because convenience is what creates a lot of this problem with environment. So what is it that is stopping you? I mean, apart from the original mantra that you mentioned, what is it that is stopping you from going on the path of convenience?
Well, in actual fact, we're finding out that convenience actually follows along the path of being eco in many respects. I mean, for instance, when we went around the other day to the back of the farm, we saw the whole composting methodology going on there. We rake up leaves, we pick up fronds and all of that, and that's got to go somewhere. But instead of burning it, we take it to the back of the farm, we put it into the compost pile, which is now a huge pile, which mixed together with sawdust from the wood shop, from the sawdust from the stables. All of that gets mixed into a nice big pile, and then we reuse that to put it back onto the plants as compost. This is, rather than taking it away and burning it, we're just taking it that next stage in the circle of life, and it provides value, frankly. And the buy-in on this thing now is really when it comes down to the people, for instance, who look after the farm, who were mainly all from San Antonio. They're all, Maya small-time farmers, but they now have witnessed and watched how much better things grow with the composting process we have. So just through their observations, they're beginning to do the same things up in San Antonio.
Mick, in terms of cost, is it more expensive to go eco?
Yes, I mean, I don't think there's any question that we haven't, I don't even know whether we ever use styrofoam, to be quite honest with you. I don't know whether when we first started here whether styrofoam was even being brought into the country, frankly, because I'm going back to when we used to pay a shilling, for a brown bag at Kalim Habet store in San Ignacio to buy flour, and in those days we used to take it back, empty out the flour or the sugar, fold up the bag and take it back next time, but it cost us a shilling. I mean, that was in 1977. Now they throw plastic bags at you, everything has to be in a bag. So when it comes down to the containers and things like that, which we use for packed lunches or whatever other uses you would have for some, we have been using corn derived products, which are certainly a lot more expensive. But quite honestly, there's just some things in our life that we just have to do. I think we just have the responsibility towards ourselves, and particularly to our children and everybody in the future, to start to observe that things cannot just be what we want, when we want, and the cheapest kind. It's rather like being able to get raspberries in a supermarket all the way through the year. Gone are the days when you would look forward to raspberry season or strawberry season, and then when that finished something, and now we can get all these things at our convenience whenever we want. I just don't think it's right. But it is certainly quite a lot more costly. Now, whether that's just because, nobody's really, those who bring in the products, I don't know where the duty stands on it. I don't know whether it's duty free. But certainly if there was more volume, I'm sure that the prices would go down and probably get down to where the same cost as styrofoam. But quite honestly, when it comes down to the way that we live nowadays, we really have to take more consideration of our environment. Yeah. Okay,
so in your opinion, should a CEO of a corporation care about what his company or his organization is doing in terms of saving the planet, saving the earth, or even some level of contribution in the environment protection?
Yeah, I think they should do. I really do. I mean, it's. I know the bottom line is all about making money, but making money is only one part of how we live. We need to start to consider the things that we actually enjoy outside of our office or our working hours. We have to understand, whether we appreciate the rivers which are clean or whether we want them with plastic bags and styrofoam things floating down. Our lives cannot be built all around money. And I think we can see that some of the poorest people in the world are some of the happiest people in the world, and some of the richest people are some of the most miserable people. So I think it's not all about money, it's not all about the bottom line. It's certainly not in our company, and I don't think it should necessarily be in others either.
So then does the same set of values apply to Wawalim, which is a restaurant that you have in San Ignacio?
Absolutely.
And also on the takeout, do you provide biodegradable containers as well?
Yes.
And then that adds a cost to that food.
Well, I mean, we have to eat the cost. So, for instance, every time you have a little piece of cake going out in one of those containers, it's 75 cents for the container.
Okay.
Every time somebody takes away food, which is not a habit I've ever really liked very much, just because we were always taught to eat whatever was on our plate.
Yeah.
But people do, they'll order a meal and they'll take a quarter of the meal, but they want it not only in a container, but they want it in a plastic bag as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I find it quite amazing that everybody, whatever you buy, even if it's a battery, they want to put it in a plastic bag.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not ashamed if I go into a shop and I buy some powder or shaving cream or something. I mean, I'll carry it out in my hand.
Yeah.
Why do I need a plastic bag for it? I just think it's a whole thought process that we need to change.
As we had discussed earlier, Mick, that the Institute started this program for business ambassadors for sustainable development, prompted by the law, but at the same time recognizing that the Institute needed to embrace, needed for the corporate world to embrace beyond just the bottom line. And so part of our program is looking for people who have started this, and you obviously are one of those pioneers in this. So my question then is that would you be willing to participate with us as a business ambassador for sustainable development for the Institute and the corporate world in Belize?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have to make this move.
Okay.
You know, I mean, the time has come. I mean, finally we're seeing the world, well, with the exception of perhaps Mr. Trump, who doesn't seem to quite understand, but most people seem to understand that global warming is an issue. It is happening. I mean, we can see it down here. I mean, I spend most of my time outside, and just as I was driving to town with the mechanic yesterday, and I was just saying, I said, do you notice a difference in what's going on temperature-wise around here? And he said, big time. So people are beginning to realize that global warming is an issue. We do, you know, whether that's part of a cycle is neither here nor there. We are definitely contributors to it, and we have to start to move towards looking after this planet. We really do. Here we live with birds, we live with nice clean air, we live with a river which we can still sort of pretty much drink the water. As I was mentioning to you earlier, we have saltwater pools, which instead of using chlorine, we're using salt. You know, so in our lives, you know, we're surrounded by natural things, and frankly, that's what, as an individual, I live for. First thing in the morning when you're swimming, you have all the sound of the birds and the trees dropping leaves into the pool, whatever it happened to be, but you're immersed in nature. It's a part of, we have to have respect for the other creatures and plants that we coexist on this planet with, and we can do. We all have our place. We just have to understand each other, pay a little bit more homage to the other critters and animals and plants that we share this universe with.
Okay. And final question, in terms of the future, you see yourself and Lucy, Chaa and the staff continuing with this message and continuing preaching the gospel of environment protection and conservation and all this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think the most important thing is we all have to, you know, lead through example. People will follow. You know, as I mentioned earlier, you know, it'll be like a domino effect one of these days. All of a sudden, it's going to be really cool to be green and considerate, you know, to the environment. It's something which we have to do if this world is going to continue. You know, we have to make some changes. You know.
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned the last, because part of what this business ambassador program is to look for leaders out there who are already doing this and who don't need a law to take them to that direction. But we realize that you also need a law to prompt for some of those people. And in closing, I would like to say that while the law has been passed, we don't expect that it's going to be implemented fully outright at the time. That there's going to be a transition. There's going to be a transition period where government is going to continue educating people, and so we are part of that program in educating, and we're looking to lead by example, like what you mentioned, for people who have already done so.
Right, and I would like to think that if you actually spoke to to any of our staff members down here, we don't force anybody to believe in what we're doing, but I think you will find that 90% of our staff would have the same kind of intuitions now, and they would, I think they're guided by the steps that we've taken here, and I do believe that they do take this back to their individual houses. Now, whether at the level that one would like, you know, I don't know, but at least they're doing it. And once they decide to do it, and it becomes rote in their lifestyle, that becomes, you know, what their children will do. I mean, man, when I think, as I say, we've gone from paper bags, which we used to buy, to plastic bags, which are just given away, and now we're going to where we have to, you know, we're going to have to change back from plastic and maybe go back to paper or whatever the alternatives are. You know, this is just a cycle we're going through, and I think it's time for us to take the right cycle, or the right side of the cycle, if you see what I mean.
Well, Mick, I would like to thank you on behalf of the Belize Institute of Management for agreeing to this interview and for sharing your experiences with the rest of Belize as we continue with this program. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, Ronaldo, thank you.